Hi, thanks for joining me this afternoon. This is a quick video as a follow-up to a talk that I produced for the British Institute of Professional Photography earlier this week. I prepared and delivered a talk called The 10 Steps to Relaunch Your Business in 2021. Out of that talk came a couple of questions around social media and preparing our content for social media, both in, is there a quicker and easier way to produce content for multiple platforms? But also, how do we keep our brand consistent and how do we keep that style across all of our different social media platforms? So I'm going to talk you through a couple of the techniques that I use for creating content. I use a couple of tools, Adobe Illustrator and Affinity Publisher. Both of these work on a very similar basis, but they just depend on your budget, really. I use Adobe Illustrator because it's part of the creative suite that I use, but Affinity Publisher is a really great tool that's only about £30 to buy, and it's a one-off purchase. So if you're just getting into the kind of desktop publishing, creating your social media content, creating printed work for your business, then Affinity Publisher is a really great tool to get started with. I'm going to talk you through this on Illustrator, but both of them very much mimic each other in the way that the tools work and where you're going to find things. So if I wanted to create a social media post for Instagram, for example, and I need to create a video tile for the front of a video, and I need to create something for my Google My Business profile, then normally we'd go in and we would open a separate file for each of these and create the content, copy it from one file to another, and then adjust all of the elements to make sure that they kind of sit right in each of those different platforms. One of the things I'm going to show you is how to do that on one screen and make it a lot easier to keep that consistency and a lot faster when you're producing content. Now, one of the presuppositions that I tend to do is I will create two different types of I will create two different kinds of content. I'll create kind of topical business content. I'll create news and industry information. I'll create product information, explainers, things like that. But I will also create some content that can sit in the background of my social media posting software and will just fill my timeline from time to time with a little piece of content. That means that if I'm really busy with work, something's still going to be going on my social media platforms. So I'm going to show you how I also put some of that content together as well. But first off, as I said, we'd go in and we would create a separate file for each of the different platforms we would be working with. So I'm going to do that now. We're sat here. I'm going to create a file that's 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. So that's perfect for Instagram because it's going to give us a square object. And then we're going to come in. It's ready for screen. So we create that file. So we've got a blank page here in front of us. Now in tech speak, we call that an artboard. And one of the big things I'm going to show you today is how to use artboards to your benefit. So we would normally go up to window, select artboards, and we'll get a window appear on our right hand side here with an artboard. We can name that artboard. So this one will be our Instagram artboard because it's a square artboard. And then what we would do is normally we'd go in, we would create some content for our post. We would give it a color. We would add some text. Maybe change a font. And then we would probably just go and drop a picture into the post. This is just as a quick example to show you what we might do for a normal social media post. All right, so that's a really quick social media post. We'd make sure that it all lines up. So we'd use this little tool called Align. So we make sure that everything's central. And there we have our Instagram post. So what I would normally do is I would then go and create a second file, which could possibly be a video file. So the title image for video file. So I would go in and I'd open a second file at the dimensions of that video file. And then I would copy my things from my Instagram and I would drop them into my video file. And then I would have to change all the dimensions and get everything so that it worked well for the dimensions of this video file. So I might have my video file like that with some other details down the side here. But generally I would end up opening 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 different files so that it worked across the different platforms. So one of the things that I do, here's a really great example. So this is an example of a course that I'm putting together the details for. I need a tile for WordPress. I need a tile for Google My Business. I need a tile for Instagram, for Facebook, for a Facebook event. And I can create each of these different artboards in a slightly different dimension, then just copy across on one screen, scale all the content, and then make sure that it's all on brand with where I want to be. So let me just put that all in the center of the window. If you see here, I've created all of my different artboards. I've named them as to what their dimensions are. So if I pull that across a little bit more, you'll see that what the dimensions are, what the product was for it to go, and where it's going to go. So I've got one here, which is for slide number 1, this green one. Is a 1200 by 1200 social media square. I've got a Google My Business slide. I've got one for a slide presentation. There's a Facebook event, and then there's one for a Facebook product because I want to put it into the Facebook marketplace. So it's a really great way of being able to put all of those different documents onto one page. Now let me show you how this works. So I can click the little button down here and I add an artboard. So this is artboard number 6. Zoom out. Artboard number 6. What it does, it gives me the same dimensions as the last artboard that I was looking at, but I don't want it to those dimensions. What I want to do is I want to use this as a custom size. So what I do is I can give it a name. Facebook group image, for example. Then if I click the button to the right here, it will let me create a custom size for that. 1500 by 900 for Facebook groups. And then as I zoom out, what it tends to do is just jumble things up ever so slightly. So we just need to reorganize our layout. And if we click the hamburger up here to the top, we can hit rearrange artboards. We can say we want it in 4 columns, and there's going to be some space in between each of them. And now it's just juggled them so that it looks right on screen. We can hide this artboard across to the side for a moment, but that allows us to see it all on screen. What we can then do is we can pick one that's got slightly similar dimensions, copy it and paste it onto the page. We can then scale that across, and then we just know that we need to pick up the certain elements that we need. Bring those down to the bottom of the page and bring them back up. What we see there then is that we've recreated a new tile. So this one's suitable for our Facebook group image. It's got a similar kind of balance. I need to just move my logo and make that just ever so slightly bigger so that's all still in keeping. And we've got another tile perfect and ready for us to go off and put into place. What we do now is we just go file and save, and it will save us as a selection of JPEGs, or we can save it as a selection of PNG files, but they're all sized and ready to go, which means repurposing our content across social media is really, really quick. That's a great way of ensuring that we are totally on brand as well with our imagery. I'm going to show you just another quick way of doing an Instagram grid. We use the same technique. Here we've created 9 different social media tiles. They're all 1000 pixels square. But what we've been able to do here is see how on Instagram, once we post each of these pictures, how they bit by bit fill up that Instagram grid and keep us on brand with the brand overall. One of the areas I spoke about earlier was that we tend to have what I call back of the mind content that's ready to go at any time. It's already scheduled, so if we're not posting stuff at the moment, there's something in the background. One of the things that we use for that is quotes, especially with one of our businesses that's to do with social media and marketing. And this is a way that we can prepare a whole year's worth of background content that's scheduled 2 weeks apart, with different quotes. So it's all kept on brand. And here we've got a whole load of different posts that are just sat there, quotes. You could use customer testimonials. You could use all sorts of different things. Did you knows, bits like that that are just going to tick in the background when your customers are visiting your social media page. So if you're really, really busy, you know that something's still going to be going out, keeping your page fresh. I tend to plan all of those out in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, and then copy and paste them into here and just make them look pretty. But again, as we save them, it saves it all as separate files. So I think we've got 45 posts here. So what I would normally plan is for a whole year's worth, so 52 posts. I can plan them all on one screen, and they can tick in the background, and it's very, very easy for me to keep them wholly on brand. So that's another use of this kind of grid artboard layout to keep all of our content on brand. So that's what I wanted to show you today, how to use artboards in Adobe Illustrator and Affinity Publisher as ways to keep your social media on brand, to keep it exciting, to keep it engaging, but also to keep it visually attractive and in keeping with your brand. And it's a nice, quick and easy way to help you produce content regularly and to produce it so that it's all in keeping with your company corporate profile. I'm Jamie Morgan. I'm a marketing professional and a professional photographer, and my business is called Help Me Grow, and also work under the brand Hound Dog Photography. More than happy to answer any questions, and you'll find me online in the British Institute of Professional Photography and Facebook group. Nice to meet you. Thanks very much for your time. Take care.